with Dave Green and me, David Postansky. How are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I've had a bit of a suffering. People have asked me in the past, training wrestling, and things like that, if I ever wanted to be a wrestler.
1 second, Dave. Hang on 1 second. I'm really interested to hear this. I'm hearing a bit of an echo.
1 second, Dave. It's interesting to hearing it all around you.
It's really weird. I don't know where it's coming from. Is that me? It was me! Okay, so, what's this you're saying you want to be a wrestler?
Well, no. So whenever I talk to people about like my interest in wrestling and things like that, they always ask me, "Oh, do you want ever thought about being a wrestler?" Or anything like that. And I always say no for various reasons, apart from the fact that I'm not exactly a physical specimen. And this is proven last weekend, about this time last week, when I was doing when I made like morning workouts and things like that, and my girlfriend trying to do like all this sort of like the various different health and fitness sort of stuff in the mornings, mostly Joe Wick stuff. While doing one of Joe Wick's stuff, where it involves a lot of burpees, I pulled a muscle in my back. So I've been recovering from that mostly this week. So yeah, the fact that I can barely function with just a slight pulled muscle in my back means no, I would never ever be a professional wrestler.
Okay, so this is an interesting topic. So a little bit of the plan of today, we're going to talk about the horror show that was Extreme Rules.
Oh, it was a horror show anyway.
It was, and we'll also speak about Slam. Did you see Slammiversary?
I did.
Yeah, me too. Right, so that's good. But on this, so have you been a wrestling fan like your whole life?
Pretty much since I was like 11, 12, something like that.
Oh, really? Okay, so I've watched wrestling since I was about 4 years old. And so when I was like 8, 9, 10, stuff like this, I would be climbing on top of furniture and doing like flying elbows, Macho Man style. And I'd like go on my parents' bed and I'd be doing moonsaults and things. And one time doing a moonsault, I did sort of like crick my neck. And so it was from that point where I was like, I probably shouldn't be doing this myself.
Yeah, they're actually like, I always try to do like the very much sort of simulated version of the flippy move. It'd be like, I get onto the thing on the sofa and what? Boom! And just on my thing and just pretend I've done the flip. No, I think it's much easier that way.
Yeah. When I was at drama school, though, there was one time, like, just playfully wrestling with one of the guys. I put him in a crippler crossface. And another time, there was a guy who was much, much bigger than me. I put him in a full Nelson. And it was just to see if he could escape. And the only reason he escaped from my master lock was that we were just at, like a place of residence, a building. And he sort of backed me up onto the stairs. And I was just getting, like, this carpet burn up my arm. And I was just like, that's too much. But, like, the grip wasn't, I was cool with the grip.
Yeah.
So, on that note, let's talk about, first, let's talk about Extreme Rules from this, almost a week ago. I'm actually going to have to check the...
Last Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, last Sunday. I'm going to actually have to check the matches just to remember what they were.
Yeah. So did you watch this live? Did you watch?
I watched a lot of it live, and then I couldn't sleep that night, and then I woke up and watched some of it like about an hour after it was. So yeah, it's been.
No, I'm glad to say I watched it the day after, and I'd see a couple of spoilers may or may not have played into my interest in the show. Anyway, but yeah, this the horror show at Extreme Rules, just. Why it's a horror show, I don't know, because it's like it's
July.
July.
I know.
July.
I think for years people have been saying WWE should bring back Halloween Havoc. That was one of the big WCW shows. Bring back Halloween Havoc. Instead, they do a horror show in July.
So that's so all the different strange little. Halloween-esque stipulations, such as swamp fights and an eye for an eye match, and just everything we sort of like talked about when we were talking about what we were expecting sort of came true in the worst way possible with this show, didn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the big one, and we can work around it. The houses from there. The eye for the eye match. What did you think?
I mean, like I say, I was spoiled for this one, not through actual social media, actually, bizarrely, but putting it on the network and then sort of just seeing what the match list was, because I wasn't 100% sure of every single match going on. And then seeing as they, like, you know how they have the chapters now, they put you scroll down and see the chapters, so start off table of match, next women start a match, then eye for an eye match. But then they decided to bookmark the ending, which basically said right out loud, Seth Rollins extracts Rey Mysterio's eye. And it's like, right, well, thanks very much for that, network. You've just totally spoiled that for me. So there's no point in me watching this match now, is there?
Yeah.
So I was already feeling a bit deflated from the whole thing anyway. So I just skipped to the end of the thing and see what else was going on. And I don't really know what went on with that bloody.
I honestly bit, yeah. I went into it with the preconception that this is one of the worst ideas they've ever had. So maybe, I wasn't open-minded enough. But having seen it, I think it was one of the worst ideas they've ever had. It was the type of thing where, and I've seen lots of other people echo this on Twitter and stuff, where it would make me embarrassed to say I watch professional wrestling. It was like a video nasty. It was like this is a poor taste idea. I felt like sorry for both of them having to be in it. Especially feel sorry for Rey Mysterio that this is now just a fact of his career. That at one point he lost a match where he had his eyeball pulled out, which is it's nonsense. It's attempted murder. It looks ridiculous because did you see like the ending?
Yeah,
Marvel.
This thing of him doing the thing that started the angle in the first place, and and just suddenly it cuts back. You just see Rollins walk up, and he just goes, "Oh," like that, as if he was expecting to see what he'd seen. It's like you just pushed the man's eye into the corner of steel steps. You're going to expect something nasty to be there, and suddenly you're like, "Oh, this is making me a bit sick." And you sort of see what just looked like the contact lens that Mysterio's clearly using just out of his thing to make it look like the eye has popped out.
Yeah.
In the worst way. I mean, we were talking about it last week, the rumour being that there was going to be a CGI eyeball. I kind of wish that we had that.
I'd love to have
we've got here.
Yeah. They keep booking themselves into things which they can't really do it in the end, like with the robotic tarantula that Rowan had.
Yeah, that's the problem is this. When you don't have a clear way of how you're going to end something, it's. I mean, how many times have they done this in wrestling anyway? Just had started off the thing, and they either kill it off with like the worst payoff ever, or they just stop like anything happening. There should be like one of those unsolved mysteries to sort of come back to Netflix.
Yeah,
they should do a special one on WWE storylines that just never had a conclusion. That never had. That just stopped. Like who remembered what Booker T had done? Remember when he randomly got a letter in the locker room? Where
I don't remember that.
Saying, I know what you did. And
I really want to know what you did. And then it was
cut off completely. And then there was like a few years ago, there was a series of vignettes where Goldust was proclaiming that he was bringing somebody in, and he never did.
See, and Goldust was obviously the person going to be behind GTV, which they continued after Goldust left, and then they never resolved it.
There's a whole series of like unsolved mysteries out there in WWE land.
The second Kane. The second Kane.
Yeah, they just stopped that dead, didn't they?
Yeah.
Even Impact. Who was the gang of ninjas that kidnapped Samoa Joe?
Oh my gosh, when was that? That's vaguely familiar.
I can't remember when it was, but he was like...
Is this the same gang?
This is when he was doing this thing with the face paint and all that stuff, and suddenly he got bundled in the back of a van, and a couple of months later he just came back and he was just regular Samoa Joe again.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But like WWE have had ninjas in the last month or so as well, which...
Right.
Yeah. Do you know what though? The big thing from this.
The giant ninja with Akira Tozawa.
Yeah, the big thing with like the idea of this horror show that people have again been saying is that WWE just tried to hotshot this to have like we're gonna have a swamp fight and someone's gonna have an eyeball extracted, and just so it's like people will be talking about it. But then they've actually been having the lowest ratings for Raw that they've ever had. And it really brings up the idea to me is that are they doing more harm than good by continuing to run? Should they have just like said, right, if we can't put on a good product, it's better than putting on a product that's going to make people just not want to come back?
Yeah, I think the problem is that what we talked about at the time when it was all sort of happening was that it's all to do with the television contracts and things. And I think it's just they're expected to bring out new content all the time, and they could just knock out loads of like stuff from the network, and or they really put the money in it. They put on a good product. They just don't. I don't get it. It's just that whole sort of cheap laugh thing to make Vince have a few chuckles backstage.
Yeah.
And having all the trainees like become zombies in their masks, banging against the plexiglass and pretending that they're fans, going, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
The most soulless, joyless people in the entire world going out there, apart from Shotzi Blackheart, who was dancing her ass off most of the time during the entrances. It was just ridiculous. She was the only one putting some energy into it.
I would love it, actually, if they just decided, well, look, to hell with this. We're going to get the audience, their audience, to do what like a real audience would be, where they would just be like boring. Imagine if they actually did. What are the other ironic chants they do? CM Punk.
This match sucks.
Yeah, I would love them just to start chanting CM Punk. That would be amazing. Okay. So yeah, that was just like the worst idea ever with Ray and Seth.
But we had another, and also ran the worst idea ever, the Swamp Fight.
Well, I was going to come to that, but let's go straight to it now. Let's start with the bad and work our way up. So it was another Firefly Funhouse style match. A bit where it had a little bit of fighting in it, not much. Braun fought himself at one point. There was a guy who was set on fire. There was just some random man fighting Braun.
Random man from the PC. What the hell was that?
Yeah, it's like it was weird. It was like who is this? I was trying to look at him. I was like, what? I haven't seen all of the shows. Like leading up to stuff. I was like, I don't remember who this is. And then when I looked up, it was no one.
They had Alexa Bliss playing Sister Abigail for some reason.
Yes, and we had more flashbacks. Now, when we watched that show a few weeks ago, I forget which company it was, like the indie show. And I was like, they had a flashback in a match, and I was like, well, it's an indie show or whatever. But now WWE, they'll just have flashbacks. We'll see what's going on inside Braun Strowman's mind.
Yeah. Well, this was the other one. It was literally just saying, right, this is why this guy's in the match, and this is what's happened up to this point, and then it's all pretty move on. But
yeah, well, sure, fair enough.
But yeah, the whole thing, it was just a long. It just felt like a long segment, because after he'd done all that stuff, he suddenly had Braun being kidnapped and being held down by these chains that he could easily have just got out of. They didn't look the slightest bit tight. Yeah. It was like he's just gone. You know what, Bray? Fuck this. No, excuse my language. Yeah, it was just the talking just went on for so long, and then by the time we did have anything happen, it was it just didn't pay off very well. It was so dark, I couldn't barely see anything anyway. And then you had Bray going in the water, and then bringing the copyright symbol at the end with Braun going, "It's over," and then suddenly like the classic sort of like villain coming back to life thing, and then suddenly comes back out of the water, and you struggle to see anything, and then the Fiend's back out there because the legs turn red or something.
Yeah.
This was the main event.
I know, and a non-title match as well. I didn't realise that at the time.
Yeah, neither did I. I assumed it was a title match for some reason, but I don't know why I made that.
Well, it's a main event of a pay-per-view. Who'd have imagined that would be a non-title match?
But yes, so there's not very much to say about it, to be quite frank. It was just dull and dark, and it was just a damn squib at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. I will just mention we have one of our most loyal viewers watching and putting some comments. You can guess who it may be, Dave. It is Bear. Hey, Bear. So just to quickly come to Bear a second, just because you've put some interesting points. You said that the referee passed Ray a fake eye. I think more likely they just stopped, set up a shot where he's holding it, and yeah. Let's have a look. Pains me to say, but all wrestling should stop while the pandemic is around. Maybe not everything, but if they're going to do the damage that they're doing at the moment with some of these ideas, maybe they should. And let's have a quick look.
As we'll come to later with our next show review, some wrestling is doing it quite well.
Yeah, do you know? Okay, well, we'll come to that. We will come to Slammiversary presently. Let's have a look at some of the other matches. So Kevin Owens and Murphy, I didn't see that. How did I not see that?
I didn't see it either, but by all accounts, they had a very good match, which was quite a quick one, apparently.
Oh, is this a pre-show match?
This is the pre-show match, and yeah, apparently it was very good. which is not a surprise. I think Murphy's very ridiculously underrated and underutilized a lot of the time. He's been very good for a long time, and even a nice little bit at the end when Owens was saying, "You see this spotlight, you're too good to be in someone else's shadow," something like that. At the end. I don't know if that was a harbinger of something to come, or they're just, or I was just literally just saying that to him and saying, in terms of the storyline with Seth Rollins, I guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it, but by all accounts, apparently it was very good.
Okay, I will check that out. Okay, so then the first match on the card that I saw was Cesaro and Shinsuke beating the New Day for the tag team titles.
Yeah, I enjoyed this actually. I was quite surprised how much I enjoyed it. I say that it was pretty much New Day and Cesaro putting a lot of effort, and Shinsuke sort of appeared every now and then to do something. But but Cesaro was on good form in this one, and I do like a little callback to his old days where he does sort of he busts out a move from his early repertoire and things like that, and did the cross arm sort of powerbomb on Kofi at the end, which is an incredibly dangerous bump to take anyway. But doing it through two tables with your arms locked so you cannot brace yourself when you're going back down, and so it's quite cool to see Cesaro bust that move out. First time I've seen that for a while. But for what it was, I thought it was perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the match. I thought I thought it was a good opener. It gave me hope for the show overall. It's the one thing that I find disappointing is that when you get basically all of these guys could be being used better than they are. How many tag teams has Cesaro been in now? I lose track.
In WWE, at least 3.
Yeah. So, okay, I've just had a quick look on Cesaro. He's 5-time tag team champion with Tyson Kidd, with Sheamus, and now with Shinsuke. So, yeah, he's always in just random pairings of tag teams where there doesn't seem any real logic to it. And time is escaping his career, where it's it doesn't feel like it's gonna happen for him. I mean, imagine if they'd put him in the... I mean, it would have probably seemed worse, but imagine if they'd put him in the Braun spot, so that suddenly Cesaro's suddenly a main eventer. It could have, he could have a resurgence like that, but it feels unlikely at this stage. Shinsuke kind of calls things in a bit, as I think a lot of people acknowledge nowadays. And Big E and Kofi, I think they just enjoy still being there, but after the experiment of Kofi Mania, as it turned out to be, there's kind of almost the not acknowledged time period.
I think they could do something with a solo thing. I think Big E could be a good solo act.
I completely agree, but
it's whether or not they want to, and depends what happens with Xavier when he gets back. But yeah, it's very much a case of just this is another team that feuding with, and they've got to start off soon. They'll probably win back again at some point soon. Don't see them necessarily holding titles for very long.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay. Next up, we had Bayley and Nikki Cross. Yeah.
Again, I didn't dislike this match. I thought I actually found it more watchable than I was expecting it to. And someone said this. I'll echo something that someone said. I saw someone's writing about this the other day. That Bayley's one of the ones that's actually really improved in terms of a character in this sort of weird time we're in with the empty arena stuff. So I think she's found a way of being a little bit more annoying and being able to smack talk a little bit more when she's doing her stuff, and she's been actually really good in a new role, as it were. Well, not new now, but it feels like new because I don't watch it as often as everyone else does. But it's but still, when I first heard she was sort of changing and they were going to do the whole sort of complete new character, I didn't have my best hopes out for it, but she's proved me wrong.
Yeah, no, I've always been a fan of Bayley. I thought her heel character has elevated her more, whereas she was seen somewhat as she'd be the second champion, the other champion. She feels more like she's elevated to a headlining act in the women's division nowadays. Nikki Cross, I don't think anyone had any expectations that she was going to win here. she's and obviously having Sasha out there as well, and Alexa out there as well, like adds to it. But Alexa, because the thing with Alexa is a face. I'm too used to like when she was a heel, so it feels like she's ineffective being like Nikki's second on the outside and then not getting involved. She just felt a bit lost out there to me.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'm higher on Nikki than most people I think are. Just as I've had a little bit more of experience of her body work before she went to WWE, but yeah, you're right. I don't know what it is. I think I kind of would like to see the crazy character back a little bit more. I mean, like the sort of like the Santi sort of crazy character she was.
Yeah,
a bit more into it, but yeah, well, we'll see. But again, yeah, you're right. There was no way that Bayley was losing this one, and I don't think she's going to lose it unless they do the sort of like the Bayley Sasha sort of feud at some point.
No, which is
we talked about that before.
Yeah, and well, obviously there's other details because we had interference from Sasha, and then we had sort of. Is it interference when you referee, like skipping ahead to the other match? Is it interference when you referee someone else's match? Yeah, like
that was Sasha, helping Bayley, and then Bayley whacking Asuka later on. Well, we'll come to it because we've already talked about Eye for an Eye. So yes, Asuka against Sasha Banks. But again, this is another match where I was aware of the ending beforehand, and so even though this match is billed at like 20 minutes or something, I couldn't be bothered to watch the whole match because I knew what a sour ending it was going to end up being. And just, I don't know, it's one of those things where if the ending is so bad, it just puts all that work that the guys put in beforehand, just kind of renders it a little bit meaningless.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, there's so many pay-per-views, and especially when, like, as we'll get to TNA in a little bit, where you can have some really good matches that have got, like, great action, and then if there's, like, not an ending... It can ruin, like if you watch a good movie, and it might be an interesting movie all the way through, and if the ending just kind of it just finished, you can be like, what was the point of that? And it doesn't matter how good it was, you know, if these matches don't have a good conclusion. But the ending with this, it was interesting, and truthfully, I haven't seen Raw or SmackDown this week. What would it be, Raw this week, to see how it would have been followed up. But obviously, we had the green mist hits the referee in the face, and so naturally, Sasha's tag team partner decides just to take the shirt off the referee's back and does the count.
Yeah, because that always works. There's always a history of that working.
Well, do you know, if that's the rule, like the wrestlers should just come out and like Hulk Hogan it with a referee shirt underneath.
Yeah, it just kind of like it doesn't give very much credibility to the person doing it either, because it's like they're so desperate to win that they decide to do that. But it's just not something that has ever worked. So why would you think it would be a case of it now? And even like the guy in the ring bell, like ringing the bell because Bayley comes over and tells him to. It's like, well, you're fired, mate. You just did something you shouldn't have done. You're not supposed to ring the bell. The referee tells you what to do. Yeah. Anyway, but they are doing a rematch this Monday.
Okay, so what happened on Raw? Because I haven't seen Raw this week.
Can't say it other than stuff happened. Stephanie McMahon was on a video and said you'll have this rematch on Monday.
Yeah.
That's the trip.
Okay. Then we come to the WWE title match, Drew and Dolph. Mm-hmm. And
this was fine.
It was fine. And truthfully, I like both of these guys, but I often feel that both of their matches, like, yeah, it'll be good, it'll be fine, it'll be okay. Dolph, to me, seems almost like the ultimate joke of, like, as a heel, and he's better as a heel than as a face. But as a heel, he never ever succeeds. He always just is the heel that gets beaten. And he's not like he cheats to win and, he's a bad guy for that reason. He's a bad guy that you're not supposed to like, and he gets beaten. And they keep giving him world title matches and pay-per-view main event matches.
Well, that's what I did last year with Kofi's reign. They won the title of WrestleMania, and his first feud was Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
For some reason. And it was just like, because a case of, we've wrestled before, so we can wrestle again. So, it's the same sort of thing, similar sort of thing here. But yeah, I think I said last week, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of either of these two. They're just sort of they're perfectly fine guys to wrestle, and I did like the ending with the sort of super kick tease, and then Drew just sort of keeping up and immediately hitting the Claymore. Just the ability to do that, and the timing of that was really good.
Take
of course,
three.
stipulation sort of helped with Ziggler was able to use weapons and stuff like that, but Drew couldn't. So sort of classic sort of the advantage of being on the heel side. But yeah, it was just there, and I wasn't really interested. We'd already had like the two non-endings from the last two matches, and I was like, no, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Has there been a precedent for that before, where like one person can be disqualified and the other person can't? Because it almost seems
have
familiar.
done that before, like back in the like 90s or something like that. I'm sure there's been a match like that before.
Yeah,
I can't think who, but I have seen that stick before. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, same. I
do remember there was a match like between Tommy Dreamer and Brock Lesnar. It's like during Brock's rookie year, where it was billed as a Singapore cane match. So Dreamer obviously has got the cane, and he's like whacking the shit out of Lesnar whenever he cared. But Lesnar just basically destroyed him during the match and didn't once use the Singapore cane, just as a thing, just saying I don't need to.
Yeah.
To sort of like to show his sort of dominance in that one, which I kind of enjoyed,
but that's cool if it's like they're showing, well, I don't need to do this. I'm trying to think. There have been other matches, and again, especially when it goes back to WCW, and I'm trying to remember if you may recall some of these results, where there would be a match and it'd be like, this was a ladder match, and then it ended when someone pinned someone else, or there's genuine. I'll try and find them.
I know there was a ladder match in early TNA that was between like five guys, something like that. I think AJ was defending the X Division title, it was between a bunch of guys, and then Sean Waltman ran in and climbed the ladder and got the title. He wasn't a legal competitor in the match, but that was actually a title win.
Yeah. So, well, do you know what? You say that say sounds like Brock Lesnar winning Money in the Bank. I think, was that last year?
Yeah, something like that. But
he turns up at the end.
He was the mystery eighth member, wasn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, okay. Anyway, speaking of TNA, let's come to Slammiversary.
Yeah. So the night before the horror show was a good show. So the Improv Wrestling stuff. Improv Wrestling Slammiversary. I'm not good with my Roman numerals. 18. Slammiversary 18. Blimey.
I know. It was like 2002, wasn't it? So. Yeah. Wow.
2018. So we'll talk briefly about some of the matches that were coming up on this one. Not necessarily knowing every single bit of history behind it, but there was a few things. But we started with the open challenge of the Rascals, and I sort of predicted a certain team, and I was very happy to see my prediction was right.
Yeah.
I was stunned actually.
Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin.
A little glimmer of on Twitter saying that the Machine Guns have returned, and I just immediately tuned into the next morning just onto the stream to sort of see what happened, and I was very happy to see the Machine Guns back. Yeah,
and do you know what? And they're really good, and they wrestle obviously slightly different style than what they used to, but their chemistry is really good as a team.
Yeah, it wasn't like exact Machine Guns of old, but it was good enough for today, and I enjoy the match for what it was. They didn't go completely hell for leather out of it, and I think that just means that they're possibly looking at a future series of matches between the Rascals and the Machine Guns. I would hope.
Yeah, and also this was good booking. I say at least anyway on Impact's part, for the fact that we had the expectation that we were going to have the Good Brothers here, and obviously spoilers later on they did emerge, but they then gave it a double surprise by it being someone else.
Yeah, 100%, and it's a good event for them to do it, and obviously because it's the anniversary sort of show, and you've got your homages to Impact, and obviously a lot of people are tuning in probably to see where people like Heath Slater and the Good Brothers, as you mentioned, or EC3 or Eric Young or whoever sort of end up going, and to bring the Machine Guns back was a bit of a stroke of genius, I thought, and the Rascals didn't really lose anything by losing to them or anything like that, because they're a firmly established team, even if they haven't wrestled together for a long time. They're still very established, and the Rascals, as I say, don't really lose a lot. And I'm just hoping we get a good series out of them. This pair, these two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up we had Tommy Dreamer, who we mentioned earlier, against Moose.
The old school rules match, which basically just been the ECW, mate.
Yeah, ECW. Well, it was old school rules for Tommy Dreamer, is what they actually meant by that.
For this TNA world title, which they are constantly saying is not really a real title, because Moose apparently found it on somewhere, something like that, and then claimed it for himself. Moose is a dick. I don't like him. He's a very bad man in real life. I don't like him at all. So less said about this one, the better. It wasn't good.
No, okay, but like I'll say for what it was, Moose isn't the most spectacular wrestler. Tommy Dreamer,
he can do some very spectacular things. Like his drop kick is incredible. The height he gets on that is absolutely amazing. I've always thought.
Yeah, okay. So for a guy like his size and everything, he can move in ways that you couldn't always expect. But I wouldn't say that he's like the crispest, cleanest technical wrestler or anything like this. Tommy Dreamer is still Tommy Dreamer. He does Tommy Dreamer matches. And yeah, he's got a lot of what was his T-shirt? Suck eggs or something like this, which was a Terry.
Yeah, they said on commentary. I'm glad they sort of cleared that up. Said Moose sucks eggs, which is sort of like an homage to Tommy Dreamer and his feud. I think they said with Jerry Lawler. I think they said like Lawler sucks eggs. Oh no, so Dusty.
Yeah, Dusty and Funk, right? Wasn't it Funk?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, it wasn't Lawler. Do you mean Terry Funk?
That's what I said. Did I not say that?
I thought you said Jerry Lawler. I might be going mad though.
No. I thought it was Terry Funk homage to his feud with Jerry Lawler.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so Moose is still the champion. Interesting that again, TNA have got Impact have got the opportunity to have 2 world championships. So obviously they can build up to something where they unify these. Next up was the Gauntlet for the Gold match for the Impact's Knockouts. For the number 1 contendership to the Impact's Knockout Championship. It wasn't awful. It wasn't great. I didn't know everyone in it. The one who perhaps there was a few people I know in it. Tyre, obviously. It was won by Kylie Ray, who she's promising. I never understood what went wrong with her and AEW. I didn't particularly like who is it that was running in the guy? What's his name? Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo. Well, they call him Johnny Bravo. Come up with an original name, for God's sake. Johnny Bravo's a cartoon character.
Yeah, exactly. And he came out twice. The first time he came out as Tyre. Who did he come out as the second time?
Because they'd done the skit earlier between the first 2 matches. That there was a little backstage thing where Tyre and Rosemary apparently struck up some sort of friendship or something, and but they both talked to him saying, "You realise that I've got to win, so Tyre's got to win and Rosemary's got to win." So he came out as both of them.
Oh, that's right.
The match. So he came out as Tyre as number 3. Got eliminated very swiftly, and then came out at the very end as Rosemary, just after she'd been out there. I mean, it's for me, it was sort of harmless. I didn't necessarily mind that so much. It was sort of a bit of silliness and things like that, which I don't necessarily mind so much. But there was a lot. The worst parts of this match, namely Katie Forbes. She's dreadful.
Yeah,
dreadful. So she was a surprise entrant in this one. It wasn't a pleasant surprise. But everyone else seemed to, I think, acquitted themselves really quite nicely in this one, I thought. So I think I'm a bit higher on it than I've seen others review it and things like that. But I thought it was a perfectly fine gauntlet. There were some good people in there. I think that there was a good little final 4 at the end as well. But they didn't rush it. They didn't make it out. They didn't play it out too long at the end either, because they do that weird thing with gauntlets. So it's essentially a rumble first, and then the last 2 wrestle a regular match. But they didn't outstay their welcome. They had that nice little counter into the Destroyer, which I thought was rather nice. And As I say, Kylie Ray wins it. There's a few just mistime. I think just some mistiming and some eliminations that happened during entrances and things. And you had a couple of people that got eliminated that you weren't aware were eliminated because the director either missed it or they just timed it during an entrance.
Now that's interesting. Was this live or was it taped or live to tape or any idea?
As far as I know, it was live. I think it was live.
Interesting. Do you know what? This was so interesting. These shows, they don't actually need to do that nowadays. They could, where we miss things during entrances. Obviously, like
technical mess ups and things like that. Like Josh Matthews was going to cue something, and then they just have a shot of the ring for a couple of seconds while they were waiting for the next bit to come up.
And the sound was awful, which does affect. Have we skipped past actually? When did Slater turn up? Slater had turned up either just before this match.
Was it after this match?
It may have either been just after or just before. But obviously, Heath Slater made his, or Heath, as they just seem to be calling him, hopped over the guardrail. Obviously, he's a fan that bought a ticket to be there, and it makes complete sense that he could just hop over the guardrail because he was obviously in the building for reasons. And he cut a promo, and like this, the thing that triggered me to say this was that obviously his sound was really poor. It didn't sound good, which was a shame because when you're debuting just to do a promo in the ring with no audience there, and then you even mess up the sound quality, it did take his thunder a little bit. But who was it that ran out? Because I can't honestly remember who it was. But he dwarfed
Raju, I think his name is.
He dwarfed this guy. To me, they've like, if I was Heath, I'd be like, oh, can I get out of this contract already? Because a couple of weeks ago he was on Raw. It's like, oh, they've brought him back. Oh yeah, okay, good for him. He's got a contract back. They did probably just as a favour to Drew if he's a good friend or whatever, something. So Drew McIntyre and Heath Slater. It's like, oh right, and now Impact, they must be like, this guy just, had a... my green screen's gone weird. Just had this thing with the WWE World Champion. So, great. And then they bring him out, and they have this little guy come up to him who starts beating him up. He gets the upper hand. He's like, I want to be a world champion here. And if we can skip to his next appearance, they then have the nostalgia moment where, well, it's not that long ago, but he meets up again with Rhino, who was last tagging with in WWE. And then Scott D'Amore comes alongside, oh, dude, you don't work here. You got to leave the building. And he was asked to leave politely.
Well, who let him in?
Who let him in? And like, instead of it being like, oh, this big free agent, it's just like, no, like you go home. And Rhino's like, oh, don't worry, call me. We'll sort something out on Tuesday. And again, I haven't seen shows this week, so I don't know.
I'll sort something out. Yeah, this company don't want you, but I'll have you around for that.
Yeah. It's just like they could, if you're going to bring in, like TNA obviously has the reputation of, we bring in anyone that's been out from WWE, and this show they can't really get around it. They did it a lot, but bringing in Heath, if they brought him in and he was like, I was always held down before, but now I'm going to prove that I'm a world champion. I'm going to make the other company want to get me back, and I will decide not to come back because you missed the chance with me. But instead they had him beat up by a midget and then chucked out by a Canadian who just books it. So I don't know. Sorry, is that an inappropriate term nowadays?
I don't know. But
my apologies.
Well, but I should point out, Roger's not actually a midget.
No, he's not. I know.
He's just an extra guy, isn't he? But yeah. That's the strongest start, maybe. But we'll see how it goes. Next was the X Division title match. Chris Bay beating Willie Mack for the title. Yeah,
I enjoyed this match.
How they built up this finishing move or whatever, saying, "Oh, he's got a new finisher. It's amazing." And it was just a springboard cutter, which we'll see quite a regular. If you watch New Japan, you see Will Ospreay get that quite a few times.
Yeah, you see it everywhere. Like you see that so much on AEW where people are hitting cutters left, right, and centre. I think QT Marshall has officially been given the Diamond Cutter by Page, which is interesting.
But yeah, for the first time I was seeing Chris Bay, I was impressed with him. I thought Willie Mack was as good as usual. That neck breaker spot from the apron to the outside looked horrid.
I can't remember.
But it's just towards earlier in the match, he had sort of like spun him around on the canvas, grabbed his neck, and it brought him down to the floor. And it looked really nasty, and it was just like that was probably a good spot, I thought. But yeah, everything sort of clicked in this match. They seem to have chemistry with each other. I think they've already done the rematch, so they might be looking to put Willie Mack a bit more higher up in the heavyweight sort of area of things. And he's good. It's Willie Mack. He's always been good. He can do that. He can be one of those guys that can be put in any position in the card, I reckon, and he'll get a good match out of people and get a good reaction. He's got a lot of personality, and if this is his sort of way out of the X division and getting him higher up in the card, then so be it.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I just want to also come back to the comments. Bear has given a few more thoughts. He's saying, first of all, isn't Johnny Bravo a cartoon character? Yes, he is.
He is. Yes, he is, baby.
Yeah. Also, Bear says, Dave, you need a green screen. So.
I don't need a green screen. I'm fine.
You don't want a green screen?
What are you talking about? I've got. Well, when you can just turn yourself into an
right,
video.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Come on, don't need to do that. I can do this. Come on, I mean, look.
Yeah, look at that.
I'll turn myself into an 80s music video, like something out of Visage or Aha. I'm fine.
Yeah, love it. And he says Chris Bay finally has the title. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what have we got next? I think it was the North against Shamrock and Callahan.
Yeah, this was weird. I do appreciate that Impact sort of before each of their matches they did do the little video montages of what the stuff that's been happening and the build to the matches that have needed them and everything. And I like the sort of like the history sort of lesson between these two teams. Saying the North, obviously the undefeated champions, they've been going for like well over a year, and Shamrock and Callahan sort of had their sort of full count anywhere match or something, and then the Shamrock won. Got sort of like a begrudging respect for each other at the end of, and this whole sort of scorpion and the frog sort of thing that Callahan kept mentioning. Saying like, you're the frog, I'm the scorpion. It's like, no, I'm the scorpion, you're the frog, or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
But this was all right for what it was worth. Shamrock kind of reminded me of that. I don't know if anyone's got a Fire Stick or a smart TV where they can like look at Amazon Prime and sort of like the preview. They have like their little headline sort of previews of what is new out on Prime or something. And they've got the most recent Rambo movie on there, and the picture of Sylvester Stallone on there is the most horrible looking picture ever. And it kind of reminds me of Shamrock at the moment in terms of like the ball point looks like he used to and like that, but and then the face you're like, okay, you are a bit older. But Shamrock was. It was really weird to see him wrestling again. It wasn't great, but he never was great. But there's a few bits like when he threw himself out of the ring and.
Oh my god! Okay, I was going to bring that up. Now maybe it was the camera work that made that look worse. Yeah. But Shamrock vaulted like you saw suddenly two guys run past, and after they were here, it was like they were there, and now Shamrock starts sleeping here. And literally, he got this far over the ropes and just crashed and burned terribly.
Yeah, it was just like the North had run out of the way quite quickly as well. It was like it just threw himself over.
But it really also looked like they it wasn't like they were here and moved. It looked like they started here and just running continually. He never had a chance at hitting them. And
great Shamrock.
There was a point where Shamrock went for a cover and Callahan got pushed into him, and Shamrock really slowly turned round and was like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, "Well, come on, like how long you guys been wrestling? Shamrock, how long? Do you not know that there's 4 guys in the ring? That this guy didn't do this to attack you and cost yourself the win there. It was awkward. It was awkward. There was lots of timing issues here.
It was. I mean, it was like at that point. I think it was either before that or that point where Shamrock just seemed to be sort of in the ring, and the North and Callahan were sort of wrestling each other around him, because he was sort of like just lost of where at what point in the match he was supposed to be at, and whether he was supposed to be on the apron or was a tag or save or things like that. So just the last 5 or so minutes where Shamrock sort of just doesn't seem to know where he's supposed to be. I felt a bit sorry for him. So I think they sort of were running rings around him a little bit, and he was either blown up or or just lost in terms of what he'd been sort of told in the sequence of the matches, and sort of was there prepared for waiting for something. But that something wasn't necessarily supposed to happen at that moment, and so Callahan and the North sort of had to carry on around him.
Yeah.
So a bit awkward towards the end, but it wasn't actually anywhere near as bad as I thought it might be.
Yeah.
Sort of
Okay,
North
which brings us, I believe, maybe to the main event, or is there? Oh no, women's championship
title match.
Yeah.
Knockouts title match. This was my favourite match of the night. Janella Purrazzo beating Jordan Grace for the title.
I was really surprised with the title switch.
I kind of was. I thought it might go that way. I know we predicted last week that it might end up in a DQ or something, but I like this for the fact that they've really established Janella Purrazzo with this, and not only just establishing her for the fact that she beat Jordan Grace, but also the fact that she's a heel and she beat the champion clean. There's a whistle, no cheating, no dodging the rules or anything like that. It was a straightforward submission. They made Grace look really good by not just using the normal submission, but using the double arm submission and everything like that. So it had to be like an Uber version of a submission to make her give up. And I was quite surprised how. I always knew that Jordan Grace was quite short. She's about 5'2", I think. Something. But I didn't realise how much bigger Janella Purrazzo would look next to her. And she was like, roughly the same sort of scale. So it wasn't. It was a bit more of a close run thing than I thought it would be in terms of size and strength, I think. But they've re-established Purrazzo with this, and I think she's put in her shift as well to make sure she is noticed. And again, sort of like a case of I'm this good. The other company didn't realise this and didn't use me to the best of my ability. So, Impact, you've got me. I'm going to do the best I can for you guys.
Well, exactly, and that's kind of what I just said. They should have said with Heath Slater.
Yeah.
You know, if you bring someone in and you just like push them as a big talent and a star, then that's what they'll be. Okay, so I just looked up as well, and according to at least from Wikipedia, they're both the same height. So. Well, I don't know. That's like it wasn't something I had thought about at all. Obviously, Jordan is like she's like the strong, like more bulky, but not bulky like fat, just like thicker, like stronger, sort of like look to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting.
But I really enjoyed it. It was a wrestling match for two people wanting to win, and there was an issue behind them, but they kept it to a wrestling match as well, which kind of it was just fresh, a breath of fresh air, and it's nice to see sort of, you don't have to be a heel and you don't have to cheat in order to be a heel. Is what I guess she's been this manipulative heel for the fact that she's been this cocky heel. She knows her abilities, she knows how good she is, and she's proven it, and that's something that can carry on from there. So it's actually a non-cheating heel for once.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Bear suggests that Deonna slouches less, maybe. So I don't think Jordan slouches. I don't think that's
Jordan does not slouch.
No. Okay, which brings us to the main event. So, wow. Okay, we had who was in this match? So we had like surprise after surprise. So as it was built, it was Trey, Ace Austin, and Eddie Edwards. We then had so before this we'd had the tease with the backstage segment with Rich Swann, and then he was on crutches apparently. I wasn't even aware of this, but then he came out with a crutch and threw it down the aisle. So yeah, apparently he was back and ready for action. Yeah, and just
they got me with the order of events here because I was like, really, Rich Swann? That's the big surprise. And okay.
Well, see, again, what I'm impressed with Impact here is that, obviously, as I said earlier, everyone was expecting the Good Brothers, and then it was the Motor City Machine Guns. Everyone was expecting someone, and it's Rich Swann, which means that you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, there is something else. Yeah. And it was the return of Eric Young, who I think we'd mentioned about last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't first on my list for the things, but it sort of made a bit more sense because I obviously had the teaser of EC3 at the very end of the show. This was a perfectly fine match. DNA Impact have always done like good multi-man matches and things like that. So it's a bit of a staple on their part. I'm just glad it wasn't a King of the Mountain match. Oh. 5 people in the ring and could have easily done a King of the Mountain, but they didn't. Yeah, it was elimination. And I think there were some really good bits in there. That sliding destroyer on the outside that traded to to Rich Swann was amazing. Never seen that done like that before. I like the sort of like the sequence of events that led to Trey getting eliminated. That sort of, what was it? Sort of like he did a flip dive or something like that onto the other two that were in the ring, and then like as he got up, he literally landed in position for a pile driver.
Right.
Which was a really lovely sequence.
Yeah, I can't remember that, like, specifically that sequence, but
That's the one that led to the Trey's elimination, sort of.
it was interesting as well. So obviously Eric Young came back, and if there was an audience there, he would have got the we're so pleased to see you pop. But then it seemed like he totally was then trying to kill Rich Swann, end his career, whatever else, had gone into the deranged, insane version of Eric Young. Which was good, because I'd spoken about last week that if they have, like, whoever the mystery person is, and when we spoke about if it's EC3, perhaps, like, he's got to come back and he's got to win.
Yeah.
Eric Young, I think you may have even said, if it's Eric Young, I don't expect him to win. But this completely meant that he came back in a big way, main event match, and it will transition him out of that, he failed to win the world title and he's not in the world title picture, just because he made a statement in his return here.
Yeah, it's a nice segue in just giving him something to do and giving Rich Swann something to do with the story of the injury and everything like that. That was a legitimate injury, but obviously it isn't now. But it gives them both something to do and go into it, and then sort of led on to like the Eddie Edwards Eddie Edwards Ace Austin sort of finale with those two. And I wasn't aware before this show that that Ace Austin had Big Man
Madman Fulton
there in his corner. So
yeah.
I wasn't aware of like the OVE breakup and everything like that. So
okay,
it's quite a nice little bit where he did get chucked out early on for interfering, and sort of had this thing. Then I've got to say, Don Callis and Josh Matthews did a good job on commentary, sort of giving the reasons why like the Austin and Edwards being the final two was the right thing, because of the sort of like the previous battles they had and feud they'd had with Ace Austin was trying to like hook up with his wife or something like that, or doing something, which I do vaguely recollect now. But it was a decent enough finale between those two, and it's nice to see Eddie Edwards pull out the Die Hard finish, which I haven't seen for a long time. So
what was the actual move called? It wasn't the
Die Hard.
Was it Die Hard? I'm sure they gave it a different name. Hang on, let me check.
Something like that. But it used to be going by it used to go by the name of Die Hard Eddie Edwards, and I'm pretty sure that's what the move was called at the end. It might have been Die Hard 2, maybe something like that. I don't know. Maybe they called it the sequel names or something. But whatever it was nice to sort of see him pull that out again and sort of cinch the deal and win the world title again. I think maybe Ace Austin should have gone for it, because I think at the end, been given the wins at the end of the day, what have Impact got to lose? They could easily just say, right, we're crowning the youngest world champion in our company's history now tonight, and sort of carry on with him from that point. But we'll have to wait and see. I think there's still a chance they could still do that, but they'll do it at the end of a sort of a sequence of storyline stuff with Austin again.
Yeah, and now obviously at the end, Edwards won, and Fulton came out, and then we had the debut. Well, sorry, not the debut, because I forget. So, not Carl Anderson. Has Carl Anderson been in Impact before? Because there was the...
Not as far as I'm aware, but Doug Gallows is part of Aces and Eights.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, because he was Doc or whatever, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they came out debuting. Interesting that they came out and it was just like for the save here. And so then we could have the Austin and Fulton in their faces and stuff like this. And then we did get this tease at the end where suddenly we see was it graffiti on the wall of like the Roman numerals, and very briefly, interesting you said about what's his name looking like Sylvester Stallone. I saw a thing that Mick Foley had put on Twitter where EC3 looks exactly like Kurgan, which he does. Which, yeah. I always thought, though, like, recent EC3, I'm not sure if you're... Do you know The Walking Dead?
No.
In the very first series, there was a character called Shane, played by John Brethnell, whatever his name is. Okay, so he was in like the Netflix Marvel's The Punisher. Do you know this guy? He really looks like him. That's what I thought. But he also looks like Kurgan, is my point. But yeah, so EC3 got this tease, and obviously that's, he's going to obviously be in the main event picture, which I think is good for Impact, because he was former world champion, and he basically did nothing in WWE worth mentioning when he came up to the main roster. So I don't think that he was particularly buried. He was just not used.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few very, very brief moments in NXT. That weird segment with Velveteen Dream in the pool. It was a very weird little thing, but that's literally it. But they have done a little thing. If anyone wants a spoiler alert, if you're watching it tonight and haven't seen like the highlights on YouTube, but there are a few interesting, newsworthy moments that happened on Impact this last Tuesday.
So, okay, right. I'm aware of a little bit that from Impact, including someone else that they teased coming in, if that's not too spoilery. Is Impact... when do people see Impact in the UK?
So it's on Channel 5, what is it, 5 USA, I think? Tonight, I think.
I won't give the spoiler then, but yeah.
But where the direction of where EC3 is going is highlighted, and there is a tag title match between the Machine Guns in the North, which should be worth watching. So.
Cool. Okay, excellent. So, favourite match between the two, or which did you think was the better show? Extreme Rules or Slammiversary?
Slammiversary by a country mile.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't that there wasn't good stuff on Extreme Rules. It was just that when stuff is like so bad that leaves the bigger impression. That's always a shame to me.
Yeah, they're just taking the mickey of these gimmicks and these cinematic wrestling things, and just what they can do with it, and just the soulless droning of the crowd behind the plexiglass. It's just. They're obviously just trying to copy AEW by doing that, by having their roster out there, being the crowd, but at least with the AEW shows, the roster are actually like out there and I don't know, being themselves and like actually responding to things. Whereas everyone else in the performance center just seems to be under some sort of mind control device where like I will press this button here, their implant in their head will make them go dun, 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 whole time, and all just mindless zombies in there. It just seems such a horrible atmosphere.
Yeah. At some point though, WWE, they should do like the gimmick thing like they've done on like Elimination Chambers, where someone is thrown through the plexiglass thing, and actually, because there was like a couple of things where something was thrown or people get their faces hit into it. Someone should smash through it. They're missing a trick there if they don't use it soon.
Yeah, that was a bit the other week. Roderick Strong ran himself into the plexiglass because he was scared of Dexter Lumis. That was just I didn't see that. They're taking the piss of the plexiglass now. I think it's a little bit ridiculous. But no, Slammiversary, I think Impact's really done a good job. I think they promoted it really well. They've taken advantage of like the releases and everything like that, and having some interesting signings out of it. It's fortunate because I think that Gallows and Anderson, there was no way that Impact was their first choice. They did seems to suggest that the AEW sort of thing has flown out the window a little bit because of some miscommunications and all that sort of stuff, and it seems a little messy.
Dave, on that, and I haven't even seen other people, not that I've looked super closely, but on Being the Elite this week, they were like, oh, do you remember like a few years ago, and there was like a 5-minute clip with the Bucks talking to Gallows and Anderson, and clearly it had been filmed this week. Because it was like, oh, this was 3 years ago, and then it was all sort of like tongue-in-cheek, nod and wink to the audience of, hey, one day we might even start our own promotion. It's like, yeah, that would be cool. It's like, yeah, and like, who knows, we'll even get it on TNT and stuff like this. And I was like, okay, so clearly this was filmed this week, and yet they seem to be putting out the idea that, that didn't work out. And to me, what this is they're going to Impact for a little bit to get some of the WWE stink off of them, and then there'll be a bigger deal when they come in. Because the other thing with the timing is they're like, well, we're just doing this with FTR. it'll be great to have another team debut in a little while. So just like before the Hardys came back to WWE for their big WrestleMania return thing, they had a month in Ring of Honor, like after Impact. I think this is just a buffer transition thing, and then they'll be like, yeah, we'll come here for 3 months, 6 months or something, but we'll only sign a short-term deal. That's my prediction. Right, on this, let's very quickly check the comments again. It's all Bear today. We've had lots of viewers today, which is nice. But yeah, but okay. So Bear has said, going off TV and onto video games. What do you guys think of WWE? Are you a gamer at all, Dave? I've never even asked you this.
Yeah, I'm not a massive gamer. No, I don't know.
Ever played WWE or wrestling video games?
Oh yeah. You've been I used to have PlayStation 2 and all that sort of stuff, and had a couple of the SmackDown games and things like that. My friend Neil's got like a Xbox One. I occasionally go over there and play some stuff, but I'm not like mass into it now.
Yeah, but have you seen? So what he's specifically asking about here? Have you seen the trailer for the video game where they all look kind of squat and there's like an alligator and that? Yeah. Like from what I understand, there's been a fairly negative response to it. But to me, it looks more interesting. Last year, there was the one where everything looked nightmarish. So, and then Bear said, okay, and bear with me here, Dave. It's a little bit of a speech.
I'll bear with you.
Yeah, haha, I like it. David, I know this has nothing to do with this show, but you should have a place where you put the names of characters from your Wrestlers game on the improv night, and then put them into a wrestling game when AEW game, Battle Games, or Virtual Basement Wrestling comes. Oh, so we should like make the creator wrestlers.
Right.
I like that idea. At some point, yeah, we might try that. Let's.
Like the Unhappy Penguin. Yeah.
The Unhappy Penguin. So if anyone doesn't know,
they don't do Colonel Groin Strength. It was just a disappointment last time.
That was great. So if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, we play a game called Wrestlers on the Extreme Improv XStreamed show, which is improv comedy. And yeah, we have a wrestling themed show. Also, I will say here, Dave, I will make this happen. Obviously I've said that there's going to be the Extreme Improv Extremed World Championship, which is like a festival with a improv championship tournament in it. During this month, I'm determined to make it so that we do an Extreme Improv show, which is wrestling themed, like how we've done the Doctor Who or Star Wars ones before. You know, so let's make this happen. Let's get Assad on there, and Danny and Andrew, and let's get Sam back, and we can just do...
Sam, where are you?
Where the hell are you, Sam? Right, but anyway, with that, anything else you want to add, Dave? Because we can wrap things up. I know.
There's even though there's not anything happening sort of over here, and like the wrestling we're talking about on the main sort of level has been of a certain level, and obviously Slammiversary, that level, Extreme Rules down here. But there's a bunch of independent stuff that's happening at the weekend. So like there's first one's going to be, I believe, late tonight, 7:30 Eastern time, EDT. But I think that's about 10 o'clock midnight, I think, over here. Paradigm Pro Wrestling are doing a show on the independent wrestling.tv, which will be going out live, and it's going to be sort of like a how do I describe it? Sort of like a shoot style sort of style wrestling tournament and things like that. And it just looks pretty good.
So, sorry, what do you mean by that? Is that like when they did that like Bloodsport or whatever it was called with Matt Riddle sort of thing?
Yeah, I believe that's the thing. So that's on Independent Wrestling tonight. Then over the course of the weekend, you've got you have a guys called Synergy Pro Wrestling doing their Garden State Invitational on Fight TV, which is only a tenner. And if you can do it on the site rather than the app, though, it's $10, which means it's a little bit less for us over here. So do it through the site rather than on the app. But that's got the artist formerly known as Simon Gotch in the tournament. People like Tony Deppin and Matt Cross and John Oliver and some quite high names on the US Indies and things like that are in that tournament, and plus a few other bits. So that looks like quite a tasty pay-per-view. And also Game Changer Wrestling are doing a double bill over the weekend called Homecoming. And that's going to have people such as Joe Janella versus Yoshihiko. Do you know Yoshihiko?
No, I don't.
He's an inflatable wrestler. And
well, at least there's no risk of coronavirus. That's all I can say. Actually, I don't know. How do you inflate it?
Exactly. Well, yeah, sometimes that's happened. We've also got people like ACH is in there, Homicide,
ACH?
Champagne. ACH, formerly Jordan Miles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, is he back? Because he sort of melted down a bit, I think it's fair to say.
I think he's just needed some time away to sort of recharge batteries, but he's been back in the independents for a couple of spots here and there, but he's back properly this weekend for GCW. As I say, you've got other ones like these guys called Blake Christian and Ed Zane who have these brilliant matches with each other. They're wrestling at some point. So, yeah, there's a weekend pack on Fight TV that you can get for both shows, or you can do each show individually, whichever you want to do, but they look pretty good as well. So some interesting looking shows on Fight TV and on IWTV.
Awesome, amazing. So we will be back. We'll come up with a theme during the week. Like I said, we will do this version of the show soon. Like Andrew wants to join the show. Bear, you'll appreciate that. But and Assad wants to join. We'll get Sam back, and we will get to this fun-filled adventure of a wrestling themed show.
The champion of Bear's heart.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll do this soon. We'll do lots of cool stuff.
Oh, hello. Sorry, hot off the press.
Yeah, go for it.
Right, okay, so I haven't obviously watched Dynamite yet from this last weekend, but there was a big sort of thing with this with Cody Rhodes sort of like open challenge he's doing every week.
Oh, Eddie Kingston.
This past week with Eddie Kingston, who is one of the best pro wrestlers in the world, absolutely hugely into Eddie Kingston, one of the best talkers out there. But anyway, They are doing another open challenge next week. They teased that it was going to be another independent name. They've just gone and announced it. It is Warhorse.
Yes! Okay, do you know what? I love Warhorse. Right, okay, so Warhorse has been campaigning for this for ages. So again, going back to very quickly talk of wrestling video games. There's a video game, if you remember like WrestleFest in the arcades and stuff, like 1991 or something. There's a game called Retromania Wrestling, and they did a thing so that, and it looks like the old WrestleFest game, and they had a thing where they were going to have like an indie wrestler in it. And for about a month, I was campaigning so hard to try and get Warhorse on there, and I genuinely feel like I spread the good word to contribute to that. But Warhorse is a great character. He's like a mad rocker, Ultimate Warrior. He's like he's not in bad shape. He's not huge like Ultimate Warrior sort of thing, but he's this old school vibe. Every single thing he puts, there's a good documentary about him as well. But every single thing he puts on Twitter is in all capital letters. And I first came across him because I'm a fan of Danhausen. Do you know who Danhausen is?
Yeah, I know Danhausen.
Lovely, weird character. And so together they are Warhausen as a combination. But Warhorse has been campaigning, like filming these videos and things, calling out Cody Rhodes and stuff like this. So I'm really, really pleased that they're actually getting Warhorse in.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Okay, but also Eddie Kingston, he is so good. He's most recently been in NWA. And I can't remember it now, but he cut the best promo of like this new era of NWA is one that he did, which I'm sure if you just put in NWA Eddie Kingston promo, you'll just come up with this really impassioned speech. He did a promo after Dynamite this week, which is worth checking out as well. He comes. What's so good about him is he comes across very down to earth, very real, very believable. And very, very passionate. So, yeah, one of the best promos about.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen their match yet. I haven't seen it.
No, not yet. I'm a little bit behind on AEW, but I've been getting back more into it as weeks have gone by. It's been getting good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's about it for this week, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Bear, this is a cool thing. It says, David, flex for us. And David, do your pose from David 19 versus COVID-19, which is a rap song I released at the start of the pandemic. I'm going to have another one out soon. But I can't remember what my pose was, I'm afraid, so I can't fulfill that request. But until next time, let's super kick our way out of this as best we can. I said I was going to put shoes on, but I haven't. So it's super kick Sock City.
They're William Regal trunk maroon today.
Okay, I've got luckily no holes in the socks, but ready? Let's tune up the band, and here comes some sweet chin music. It looks so bad with the bottom of the socks with the fluff. Bye, everyone. Bye.